Hello and welcome to my 500 subscriber special. Sorry this video took a while as all the attempts I made with this video without a script ended up with me waffling on about nothing for far too long. So I decided to make a script, and since I've been busy the past couple of weeks, it took a little longer than anticipated. Sorry about that, but on to the first question.
What type of software do you use to make these beats? And your equipment to making these are what types? Still can't move on from your works such as Those Songs of Love and Lost Kid in Bossa Nova Cover.
Thanks for the question, Chloe, and I appreciate you liked Those Songs of Love as it's one of the few original songs I wrote without VTubers and parasocial relationships in mind. Honestly, when I first made it, I didn't like it for some reason, but it's grown on me now that some time has passed. To answer the rest of your question, I'm a bit of a caveman. I record my piano's output directly into Audacity. The sounds you hear, with exception to my voice, some small percussion instruments like a tambourine and also sometimes my desk, as well as my trumpet for brass sections, which I occasionally digitally pitch down for a trombone-esque sort of sound. With exception to the sounds I just mentioned, all of the sounds you hear are from a Casio CT-X700 keyboard. Recently, I got a bit of an upgrade in terms of my keyboard with my new Roland RD88EX, but so far the only song I've recorded with this keyboard is Autumn Comes a Second Time. Now, all these sounds are directly recorded into a PreSonus Audio Box 96 USB interface, and my microphone is also plugged into this interface and is a PreSonus M7 that came with it. Before I got my USB interface and microphone, I used to record everything into a Blue Snowball USB mic. Like, I would directly stick the microphone directly into the inbuilt speaker of the piano to record it, which was incredibly scuffed. And even with my gear now, if you know anything about audio or making music, my setup is pretty scuffed and very, very cheap. But I reckon it gets the job done. So far, anyway. Thanks for the question.
Firstly, congratulations on 500. I'm curious about what got you into music and how you'd end up writing songs for tubas. Take care!
Thanks, Danny. I appreciate the congrats. And as for your question, I've been into music since I was a kid, and I took singing lessons from a pretty young age. Through that, I found that I surprisingly liked jazz, so I kind of rolled with that for the rest of my life. That being said though, what really solidified it as a passion for me was the start of middle school when I was forced to take an arts subject. Even though at the time I was drawing, I didn't really want to take a visual arts class, so I decided to take up music, learn how to play the trumpet, and enter bands. I continued this into high school, and as I ended up really liking it, and I learned a bunch of music theory both through classes and on the side through my own curiosity and interest, I wanted to try writing my own music. And at first I would write silly little songs about in-jokes or things I'd find funny and share it amongst my friends. And as for how I ended up writing songs related to VTubers, I've been an avid fan of VTubers since 2018, and of course I really got into VTubers in 2020 with Hololive E and Myth debuting. You can guess the rest. As a side note, saying I write songs about tubers in general is a bit generous as my music has been 99% about Amelia Watson. Anyways, as for how I end up writing songs about them, I wrote a short story in year 12 about a parasocial relationship with a streamer, which I heavily implied to be Ame, and that ended up inspiring my very first VTuber-related song, Fictional Girl. As for why I continued writing about tubers, a mixture of genuinely feeling uncertain about my future, generally feeling like shit for a variety of other reasons, and me using VTubing amongst other things to cope with it all, inspired the rest of my music. Oh, and before you get worried, I'm in a much better place now, and yeah, I do genuinely enjoy songwriting, so there are more songs to come. Thanks for the question.
What artists do you take inspiration from, or have had an influence on your style of sound?
Thanks for the question, The Maniton. Unfortunately, I can't really say I take any particular artists as inspiration, as I tend to take inspiration from several different places at once, and I tend to look at genres as a whole to pick up things. I listen to a bunch of Latin jazz, as well as other forms of jazz, Japanese music, Filipino, and other Asian music, as well as old Brazilian pop, to name a few things I put in my playlists to subconsciously draw from. If I was to name a couple examples, like songs, albums, soundtracks, artists, the things that come to mind are an old Brazilian album by Milton Carlos called Samba Quadrado, probably butchered that, the band Novos Baianos, and a little bit of Jobim with albums like Wave, Stoneflower, as well as that really famous album with Stan Getz. In terms of Japanese music, there are a lot of things I like. Lamp is a band I listen to a lot. I like Mariya Takeuchi, Tatsuro Yamashita, the Timely album by Anri, and the song The Sun Is My Enemy by Cornelius. There are plenty of soundtracks and any songs I really like the soundtrack to the anime ARIA, the soundtrack to Hitoribocchi anime, which some of it is really good choro, by the way, and as well as things leaning on more the pop side with stuff from Idolmaster and Love Live coming to mind. I also obviously listen to a lot of VTuber music, and I've been getting into listening to a lot more Suisei due to a close friend of mine. I absolutely love the track Debutante Ball, so that's one of my favorite Suisei tracks. This is getting really long, but as a quick-fire of things I've probably taken inspiration from, in terms of Filipino stuff, I really like Pasilio by Sunkist Lola, stuff by a fairly obscure Filipino jazz artist named Bong Pinera, and the song Paano by Dulce. As for non-Brazilian Western music, I listen to a lot of Chet Baker, Leve, and Grant Perez, and also I nearly forgot to mention, but a big shout out to my friend Mike, who listens to a lot of the same music I do and also makes music. We share a lot of music theory, arrangement, and other music autism stuff with each other, so I'm sure some of that exchange has made it into my music. I'm sure I'm going to read this and think of a bunch more stuff, but it's a really long answer, and I hope you at least get an idea of the stuff that I listen to that eventually bleeds its way into my music. Thanks for the question.
Which was the hardest Go Home Schizo EP song did you make?
Thanks for asking, Nuts Were Found. It's probably a tie between the song Go Home Schizo from a recording/arrangement perspective, or the song Watson's Concoction in terms of just writing and putting it together. Go Home Schizo had a lot more going on in terms of instruments, backing tracks, and backing vocals, and I wasn't really nearly as confident on the piano at that time, so I found locking into the groove at that tempo was a little difficult. There were also a lot of vocal harmonies as well as brass stuff, which just took a lot of work to do. Otherwise, it was pretty stock standard and easy to write, as I just had to channel VT and write to an AABA form, which, due to listening to a lot of jazz as well as going to jazz school for a bit, is really ingrained in me in terms of songwriting. As for Watson's Concoction, it was just a difficult song to write overall, as I went out of my comfort zone and wrote something through composed with no particular traditional structure like verse-chorus or AABA like I mentioned before. Trying to figure out how all the little sections, which had different time signatures, styles, and keys would fit together was definitely a big challenge, but otherwise recording that one wasn't too hard. But yeah, either Go Home Schizo or Watson's Concoction would have been the most difficult songs on that EP to make. Thanks for the question. Now, I wanted to get all the questions where I would require a long answer and thought out of the way, so onto the questions that I can answer in feasibly 1 to 3 sentences.
Will there be songs about Ame? Or will it be about Doobie from now on?
That's a good question, Gita Mr. 5738. Whilst I certainly can't say I'm going to rule out more songs about Ame, as the next song I'm working on could feasibly be interpreted that way, I'm definitely going to write more stuff about Doobie, as I really enjoyed writing that Christmas song, and I'm also going to try write more stuff that isn't tied to VTubing, so look forward to that.
Ame doko?
Thanks, Hot Lemon. The answer to that is in my heart. In all of our hearts, actually. Let's be prepared in case she ever returns.
Comprehensive history and holiday lore when?
Thanks, Renru, but as for your question, not anytime soon. I'm a pretty uninteresting person with fairly uninteresting life experiences. It's part of why I write so much about anime. Though I appreciate your interest in me though.
Which is your favorite song you've made?
I'll be honest, it's almost always whatever the latest song I've made at the time is. If any were to stick out to me though, I was really happy with how All Good Things Come to an End turned out, as well as Just a Fad, especially due to the fun harmony in the B-verse. A song I've been looking into remaking and perhaps adding onto is Take Your Meds. Thanks, White Zora.
Backflip or front flip?
Neither, as I think I'm too uncoordinated to do either. But if I was forced to choose at gunpoint though, probably a front flip, as I think I accidentally did one as a kid while jumping over a bench in the playground playing Chasey. That's tag for people who aren't where I'm from. Anyways, thanks Seamus.
What happened to Holiday 1.0?
To answer your question directly, Kookaburra, nothing. Nothing has happened to the other Holiday YouTube channel. I just post stuff about the video games I play on there. I don't post there nearly as often as I once did, but technically it still is the main YouTube account I actually use when watching videos or watching VTuber streams. I just felt like mixing music and my Kerbal Space Program, War Thunder, and Minecraft Autism hyperfixations in the same place would be a little weird, since I gather that in a hypothetical Venn diagram of the overlap of these two audiences, not like my audience over there was that big to begin with, would be almost nobody. I originally had my fictional girl, upload up on that channel, and someone commented something along the lines of, the quality of my videos has been going down, so I guess that inspired me to make a whole new channel since I had already made half the fictional girl album by then and I was already ready to post it. I guess it's also an experiment to see just how many people subscribe to me just because of my music, rather than using an existing audience to build off of. I realize that this was meant to be a short answer, but now you get to hear the words of my past self who typed out this whole monologue. It also just occurred to me that I don't actually have my other channel linked on this one, so in a way, thanks for letting me know. Thanks for the question, Kookaburra. Thanks for watching this. I hope you found it interesting and not incredibly boring. I know I'm tired of the sound of my own voice whilst editing this. Once again, thanks for the 500, now 512, Signalis reference. Anyways, if you have any more questions, I'll do my best to answer them in the comments below. So, thanks for watching, thanks for 500 subscribers. It still amazes me that 500 people decided that my music is good enough to subscribe to. I know it's pretty small in the grand scheme of things, but hey, 500 is a milestone. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching. Alright, so this question came out literally as I was editing the video, or at least I saw it when that was happening. Favorite game? As for my favorite game, it'd probably have to be Minecraft. I'm still playing it, more than 10 years later. But thanks for asking, Ape Researcher.